This is an open letter to friends and folks. I spent a lot of my my I spent a few years of my life in other people's homes. You know, a way, a way an orphan person would have spent some of their childhood in different homes. And I was an orphan, but it was it was meant to be or whatever. This is what happened. It happened. Again, thanks to a lot of pink-skinned folks from pink-skinned lands who decided that people in other places in the world have to be you know involved killing each other because that makes those places insecure and our places in comparison very secure. So owning a secure place and making other places insecure helps push money and brains into our place. The way gangsters offer protection. They offer you protection, and they offer your competitor also protection. And then if you don't pay it, if your competitor does pay for protection and you don't pay for protection, your shop may burn down because whoever doesn't pay protection is not protected, and your shop may break down. So a country like Saudi Arabia was paying for protection and their house didn't burn down. They had a peaceful existence for a century or so now. But other countries either didn't want to, they had this sense of pride, didn't want to pay for protection, or circumstances. There were a lot of crazy people in them. They don't want to pay for protection. You got to be crazy not to pay the mob protection money. Sane people pay the mob the protection money and get it over with. You know, you got to be a little crazy to to say no, no, I'm not going to pay protection money to the mob. Salute to the mob. So what happened was basically I had to spend a few years of my life out as an orphan, and what I can tell you is what I have a little deeper understanding, having a mother and having a sister and being an orphan, seeing other women that time that I was an orphan, other women in their own habitat, when they have full authority, how they exert their authority, especially if they're not, they don't really like you. And then after that, girlfriends and all of that. So through the years, I think I have a better view because of those few years that I spent as an orphan. I think I have a better view of what women are than your average folk who grows up either is only an orphan, which God forbid for any child to be an orphan all his or her childhood. But either you're an orphan all throughout your childhood and that's it, shitty beginning. You're probably are going to become cynical from day one and horrible life, probably very short. And then those who never experienced being an orphan and growing up in a loving, caring family and all their life, and they really you know, don't see that side of women. What I have, again, salute to the woman. I'm going to It might sound as an insult, but I'm not trying to insult women. I'm just telling you about my conclusion from the experiences that I've had with women. Salute to the women. What I can conclude is that women care very much for themselves. Women, you can say women love themselves. They really love themselves. I mean, you got to be in love with yourself to apply three, four, five, 6 layers of makeup to be satisfied. You got to think very highly of yourself. You're looking in the mirror and you're saying, "This is not what I want. I feel that I feel like, I guess, Dolly Parton in her heydays, or Taylor Swift now. It's sort of like a woman looks in the mirror and says, I feel like Taylor Swift. Now give me some paints and powders and let me see how close I can get." Because she loves herself so much that she feels 110% always, as in, like, me, I'm number one. What do you think? And, I paint my face until I get as I can get as close to Taylor Swift, as or something like it, equivalent of European uh, understanding of beauty. I look like this. I feel like this, as being a top beauty icon. But let me see how close I get. I feel like it, but let me see how close I can resemble it. Make myself look like. You got to be full of yourself to do that. And the rest of society has to go along with the idea that yes, we can tell that it's that the red color on your lips is not actually your own. It's it was made with some grease and some pigment. Yeah. Okay, you have that on your lips, and then okay, we can't tell that your eyes are really not that big. They're normal like other human beings, but you're trying to make them bigger. Okay, we don't realize that men have pretended for ages that they don't realize that it's all paint. You know, smoke and mirror. The thing with women. So from all this feeling that I feel so expensive, that I'm feel so Taylor Swift, that I'm going to paint myself to look like her because that's who I really am. So that should tell you that women love themselves 150% all the time. They're in love with themselves. But nobody else really. Nobody else comes close even. So, you know, then women are associated with love and, you know, care and all of that bullshit. They're associated with that because of the love and care that they provide to their children. But that's also a bit of a bullshit, because women loves and cares her own child because she recognizes the child as an extension of herself. That's about it. They care because she loves herself 150%, then she may love her child 90%, 80%, 90%. You see what I'm saying? As an extension of herself. But then the love that she feels for her husband is like 10%, 20%. Maybe not. If this doesn't work out, I sell my pussy somewhere else. This is, I'm sorry. Salute. In my view, this is what I see, that women really love themselves as an extension of themselves. They somewhat love their children or child, and then the rest of the society, she could care less if they fall by the road and not get up. women in general are much more relaxed towards the well-being of anybody who's not them or their children. Much more, relaxed. Oh, neighbor's kid died. Okay, okay. 3 o'clock, I have a nail appointment. It's sort of like if it comes down to it, a woman would, in order to save her child, she will kill the neighbor's child if she has to. Sort of like, I will kill her child, so my child, if it comes down to, if they say, okay, if it's between your child and your neighbor's child, the woman will always point at the neighbor's child and say, I'm okay with the neighbor's child dying as long as it's not mine. And if it gets really down to it, she's going to say, okay, if, I rather my child dying than I, always, the woman always sacrifices the child as, to save herself. That's well known. So my point is this, that you don't see many men having an easy time making a decision between, you know, their own child and a neighbor's child. A little more difficult time making a decision. They don't want the neighbor's child to go be sacrificed either. So men have a much, you can say much more compassion towards the neighbor's child in relative to their own. So if they love the child 90%, they love the neighbor child maybe 40%, 30%, as opposed to a woman who loves her child 90% and loves the neighbor's child 10%, 5%. Absolutely, sometimes the neighbor's child has zero value for a woman. I said all this. This is my view. I could be wrong. I'm often wrong. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But this is my observation. And I think women have been wrongly associated with a lot of love and giving and, compassion and all of that, just because they have shown so much compassion towards their own children or their own child. So because they have been associated with that love and compassion, then people mistakenly associated that love and compassion with women's love and compassion towards other people. Sort of no, 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 no. That it can't be farther from the truth. Women have less compassion towards other people who are not their children than men do. Women have less compassion towards other people who are not their children or are not associated with them than men do. Men have much more compassion for, strangers than women do. And if you add this to the fact that I already went on this matter on my last video, that if you add to the fact my point is this. I heard just a few hours ago, I read that Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, some, some European top diplomat from the European Union, has, was mentioning in a news program that, yeah, Finland and Poland and France and we all should get ready to confront Russia. And then, thank God for the reporter. The reporter asked her that, so your children are in the military? And Mrs. von der Leyen said, laughed it off and said, oh, no, 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 no. So here we are, a woman which I believe has much less compassion than her male counterpart, who also her children are out of harm's way, is presenting the idea that one side, we should go to war against the other side. Now both these sides are fucking humans living on the one fucking planet. They barely have occupied 1% of the landmass of the planet, humans are barely occupying, 1% of the landmass of the planet. Now they're fighting. They're going to kill millions of them to 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 find out who should control a 0.00002% of that 1% that they actually live on. You see? 1% of the planet is actually occupied by humans, and over small pieces they're going to kill millions of their own people over the 0.00002% of that area, which is Palestine and it's Ukraine. Over that small fraction of that area, and who owns it, who has the rights to it, they're willing to go to war. The Russians and Goldman Sachs and BlackRock are willing to go to war to determine who that piece of land belongs to. Then they put front Mrs. van der Leyen, and she says, yes, get ready to go to war. Now, when is my nail appointment today? I mean, a woman would care. The same Mrs. van der Leyen, I have a feeling if her nail breaks, she will lose sleep over her nail breaking. And the very next thing she does after the nail breaks, she picks up the phone and auto dials her nail lady, and so the nail lady would go to her and take care of the broken nail within the next fucking hour. I have a feeling Mrs. van der Leyen has her nail polisher on speed dial. She moves around with her to take care of her nails and whatever. So such a person in such a position of privilege is very nonchalant about the neighbor's child. Not very nonchalant about the neighbor's child. That can only come from a woman. Men are not that nonchalant about other people's life. And by extension, this is what I was about to say, that if you want, those kind of men that value life even more, go to lower rank officers of military forces. Those captains and majors and colonels and colonels and colonels, no generals, up to colonels. These people have been on the front line and have seen the people under their orders, under their responsibility, blown up, broken, not to be fixed, could not be fixed. Those people have even more compassion. Learn to have more compassion against strangers, because they have lost people, strangers, who are not so strangers after all. They were part of their team. So you have women on one side of the scale, in which absolutely wouldn't give a flying fuck about the neighbor's child, and especially privileged women from von der Leyen, Ursula von der Leyen. I understand in German, when one comes in front of your name, your middle name is one this and one that. That's goes back to German royalty. The same cocksuckers who were had so many wars with the cocksuckers on this side with the British. She goes back there. She has a one in her name. And she's very nonchalant about war, and she's a woman, so the neighbor's child has zero value to her. The same woman that we all know, if she breaks a nail, she's saying let's go to war, but you see that the lower rank, upper rank officers, not generals, of every army, the Germans. I'm kind of sure that recently the Germans were, caught on a wiretap, telling the world. I'm sure they wanted to be caught on a wiretap, telling the world that Germany's soldiers are ordered to send in heavy missiles to Ukraine. They wanted to be heard because these officers who have seen their comrade, their responsibility being blown to shreds, they are the last people who want to go to war. They don't want to see none of that shit anymore. So these guys should be in charge. The colonel who, have seen people die for no reason, Joe broke and we couldn't put him back together again. These guys don't want to go to war. These guys are the reasonable guys, compassionate guys who are, can compromise. A colonel from United States and a colonel from Russia, I'm sure they can go make a peace deal in 10 minutes flat in Ukraine. A colonel from United States and a colonel from Russia. Not generals, no politicians, no generals, no arms manufacturers. A colonel from this side and a colonel from that side can come to some kind of agreement to stop the killing and draw the line and everybody go back to work. Normal life. A captain, a major from this side, and a major on that side can make the deal in 5 seconds because they don't want to go to war. But Orsillo has no problem with war.